Hi, it's Kamon Reynolds. We're in the Nuke Follow Along series hives, and we need to talk about Varroa treatments. So in the last video, we washed this colony with an alcohol wash. We didn't get a single mite. I haven't washed the small one yet, and this is really important. I've talked to so many beekeepers over the last several years, and some just as recently as the Louisiana Beekeepers Association conference where I was speaking at, about what kind of mite loads beekeepers experience in August. And it can really be all over the place. If you wash all of your colonies, what you'll find is some of them have a really low mite count, some of them have a really high mite count, and it's really important to know, in my opinion. It's not fun to have to do a wash, and I'm going to leave a link for a video on how to do that up here. It's really simple, but there's a lot of reasons why you should do that. One, because only a few of your colonies might actually need treated, or if they do need treated, maybe it's something we can use something lighter that's less disruptive to the colony. And so we're going to talk about some products and what I'm going to do in this situation. So the last time I did a video, which was about 10 days or so ago, they didn't wash any mites. It's August. There's very little nutrition. I've been watching the pollen. I'm getting a basket maybe 2 times a minute, 3 tops. That's not ideal. We're just in a drought. We need some rain. It's going to affect the fall flow, what little there is, and that's just the way nature is. These bees need to continue to go forward very healthy, and that's why I go ahead and invest some pollen patty, and that's what I'm going to be doing again. But it doesn't matter if we feed our bees good and we have a great queen and all these things if we have a high mite load. Part of the reasons that bees collapse in the fall is there's an abundance of pressures, more yellow jackets and hornets, robber flies, assassin bugs, you name it, greater populations of small hive beetles. There's also things that we can't detect with the naked eye that are building up possibly in our bees as well. So keeping them as healthy as possible is important. And as our bee populations naturally want to decline a little bit, many of these pressures are on the incline later in the season. This is not ideal. And so with the mites, we definitely never want to underestimate them. Know what's going on and don't end up buying a nuke from me again next year is what I say. And hey, you can control the mites, but sometimes you just have a queen become a dud. So just don't beat yourself up if you lose a hive of bees. If you're not losing bees, you're not keeping bees. It's part of the game. So I've got this new product here, Varoxan. We're going to be using that. Why? Because there's already a low mite load, and I want to put something in there to chip away at what little mites there are, because there always is mites, and also there could be a hive that collapsed. Sometimes I send off swarms. What if they went into a tree, built up a high mite load, and then collapsed and my bees robbed them out? That doesn't mean it'll take my bees out, but sometimes there is a little bit of a late fall pressure of mites that come into the colony, and I just want to ensure these colonies do good. There are other products out there that you can treat your bees with, and I want to talk about that. This is the newest one on the market, Varoxan. It's oxalic acid and a glycerin mixture in a cellulose strip. So it's very organic. It's able to be used with supers on if you want to, but it's not a disrupting product. A disrupting product is something like this right here. This is made by the same company, Vita Bee Health, and it is Apigard. Its primary ingredient is thymol in a gel mix. Let's see if I can open this up. Woohoo! Boy, that'll clear your sinuses. And this can do a pretty good job. However, it's very disruptive to the colony because it disrupts their communication and can burn a little bit of brood. If it's applied properly with a good strong hive, it does really good. I personally never use this product on a weak hive or a small hive. If it's not at least got 4 to 5 really good frames of brood, I'm not considering using this product or formic acid. Both of them are very natural and don't build up nasty chemicals in our wax or anything like that. But we have to realize that these products can still disrupt the colony's communication, and the acids or the thymol can burn a little bit of brood. And that's why I think it's worthwhile to do an alcohol wash, because, okay, yeah, we've sacrificed 300 bees, but we have a snapshot of what the mite population is right then, and now we know if we have a 1% infestation or more, which would be 3 mites in a alcohol wash of half of a cup of bees, that we need to apply a treatment of some sort. 1% is something we can recover from, but in 21 days, that's likely 2%, then 4%, and we're in big trouble, especially if you're in an area where you haven't had nutrition for a long time. The bees can withstand much higher pressures of mites when their colony is bigger and there's a lot more nutrition. So, I like these products. Here's another option right here. This is my favorite vaporizer. We've used it a ton, and I'm gonna leave links to all these things down below so you can find them easily. But this is an oxalic acid vaporizer. Many of you may have one of these. If you have a lot of brood, it takes many rounds to control the mites. But if you have a hive like this that has low mite counts, well then maybe 3 or 4 rounds would be just right to kind of chip away at the mites a little bit, just to make sure that they stay low, and you're good. But if you have a high mite load, like 2% or more, this is not a good answer for that. This really works great when there's no brood in the colony, or if you're going to do a lot of repetitive treatments. It is a very gentle product. The only time oxalic acid vapor is an issue, in my opinion, is when they're going through a requeening process. If there's a virgin in there or anything like that, this vaporizer can disrupt that process and get the queen killed. So can this product. And that's one of the reasons why I like this. There is other products out there on the market, Apivar strips and otherwise, but today we're going to use this. So wow, that was a lot of talk. But when we have low mite counts, we don't want to use these harsher products because it's going to disrupt the colony, and that 300 bees that we sacrificed is nothing compared to several days of the queen shutting down and possibility a little bit of brood getting burned. All right, so let's try out this Viroxan product. It takes 1 strip per 2.5 frames of bees, so that is a lot of strips. I really want to test this heavily, and I believe that this is a very promising product for starting early because it's not disruptive. And if we can kill half of the mite population in early spring, just think of how many hundreds, more than likely thousands of mites we're preventing later in the summer and early fall. Start early. Don't let your bees be affected. Many times your bees are being affected pretty good, and until you won't know until it's already quite bad. Typically, the signs are not very clear, especially to new beekeepers, until it's almost too late. So we don't want you to get in that position. So let's do a quick inspection, drop some strips in, and I just like to, like I said, this is a low mite count colony. Kill the mites. We want these bees going into winter absolutely pristine, but I don't want to disrupt them. So here are the strips, and I have my orange gloves on for safety reasons, and these are just great gloves because they're so nice and durable. And we use them. Laurel found these for me, and as usual, she was right that they are good. All right, so there's 1 strip right there. It's pretty long. You hang them over the frames. Whoa. No, that's 2 strips. Pardon me, incorrect. So we're going to take this, let's fold it over some frames, and we want to put this in the brood area. You can see how the bees are clustering a little bit on the outside. There's a screen bottom board, it's just that hot. Wow. And there goes the Viroxan, because we're always so smooth in our videos. We're going to put this right here, and I'm seeing lots of food in here. Now, just because I have 20 frames does not mean that there's 20 frames of bees in here. Since we made that split, this colony has taken a hit in population, and we just have not had a good fall flow kick in, and it's just hard to grow. You just can't really grow bees good long term off of just feed. So they've tried to draw this out. I don't really want to feed them too much. We have a good bit of food here on the sides, and I don't want to plug them out. They could probably withstand a little bit of feed, but they have a pretty good bit of feed on the walls. Let's check a little bit more. This is what I want to see right here. I'm pretty sure this is the only frame of brood in the top box. Well, half a frame of brood. So I'm not looking at these bees and going, they're running out of sugar syrup or honey. But what I am seeing is not a lot of brood right now. And there's really not a lot of bees up in here. We could really use some good healthy pollens and stuff right now. And there should be a little bit of a nectar flow from the goldenrod. The early stuff has started, but it hasn't done a lot. If you'll notice, we haven't smoked this yet. I'd say there's about 2, 4, 6 frames with brood on it. You can see how the bees are clustered. Those are the nurse bees. So when we made that split of a couple frames of brood that really took them back a little bit, they could have 8 frames of brood right now, which is fairly normal given the fact that, again, we're in a dearth period. We haven't had good nutrition for 2.5 months. So if you're not in an area like that, you may never see something like this, but it's normal for bees to go backwards a good bit in Tennessee, especially if you split them. So this is a frame that we moved in here. I'm seeing some eggs, but they haven't really drawed this out very good. Just a bunch of drone comb and foundation over here. Okay, this has got brood on it. That's really good. So we probably are looking around 6 frames of brood tops, unless they've moved over some. This is a frame of honey, partially full. That's a good pattern right there. Okay. You know, we're seeing young larvae. There's some young stuff over here and some fixing to be capped more over to the right. We have a little bit of drones over in here. And I'm just not seeing any brood at all in those frames. Really hoping we get some good fall pollens come in. But it's going to be very short-lived. Usually it is very short-lived. So you can see we're getting a little bit of pollen coming in here. And that's the bee bread, but it's just not a lot of it. So I'm going to supplement with a little bit of pollen patty. So right here, you can see there's a little bit of brood that they're pulling out for whatever reason. Maybe there's a mite that was in there or something. Well, just pulled right off. There, I got it. And it's very possible if it was a mite that it's already ran out. There's other reasons that they do that, but I'm seeing some of that. I'm not seeing any food down into here in the brood area. You see any nectar or sugar syrup down into here? That means they could use a little bit of feed. Even though they've got enough, it's not like they're gonna starve tomorrow. If we want to stimulate this colony to lay more, then we need to feed them a little bit. We're not talking gallons, but let's give them a gallon of thin syrup to stimulate them, not really fill up a lot of space, and that'll help. All right, so we're seeing some more brood here. And just same song, second verse. Looks like there's brood on the far frame. And this is just another, well, no. We do have some brood here. They're starting on this, so that is good. But see again how there's no food around this? That is not ideal. Look down here at these young larvae. There is not royal jelly around them very much. It's very meager. You're not going to see that in spring. These bees will not develop to live as long as the bees in the springtime. And so again, there's just nutritional stress in here, and it's semi-normal, but you compound multiple negative factors. Bees live shorter, more mites, more yellow jackets, more things. It can be tricky. So it's up to us as beekeepers to try to keep these colonies as healthy as we can. My bees that are up in Wisconsin that have been getting all this natural nutrition, they just were swarming just a couple weeks ago. They're so strong and healthy. Lots of pollens up there and lots of the real stuff. All right, so I'm seeing more brood. Just a dry queen cup. All right. And I'm going to look at one more frame in this one. This is going to end up being a long video, but August is very important. And so is early September. We need to get those mites down. You know, products that are slow kill, if you have a high mite population, slow kill products like this Viroxan likely is not going to work. It still needs more testing, but it's not likely that it's a fast kill. Most oxalic acid extended releases are not. Wow, so this I'm pretty sure was full not that long ago. That is pretty emptied out. Yeah, let's give this colony some food. And we are going to give it some pollen patties as well. I mean, if we can feed a couple rounds of pollen patty over the next month, just 2 pounds, and that helps us get 2 more pounds of bees, that is going to be a big difference in how big this colony looks going into winter. So this is just foundation right here. And hopefully they'll get a little bit more of this foundation drawn as well. All right, now the main thing is we came in here to do these strips. These bees are a little irritable. It's late in the evening and no one likes this heat. Goodness, it's hot. So I'm not seeing a lot of brood. And there is a decent bit of bees, but honestly, they're pretty spread out because it's so hot. A lot of the foragers are in for the evening. I'm gonna guess there's probably around 12 frames of bees in here if you condense it down to solid bees. Let's get these bees out of the way, avoid crushing them. That's the main thing with these kinds of strips. We would avoid crushing as many bees as possible. We just kind of smoke the bees out of the way and then just put that right there. And you know, if you're wanting to be extra safe with the queen, you can pull the frames apart and smoke and push that queen out of the way really well. So we'll see how well this does. Leave myself a little bit of room in here for some pollen patties. So since there's 12, you're supposed to have one of these strips per 2.5 frames of bees. I'm going to put 5 strips in. But I'm going to put 4 down here, and I'm going to put 1 up above. And now I'm going to get this pollen patty. And this is the global dry mix stuff. Needed mixed in just a little bit more. Oh well, bees, you'll figure it out, won't you? Those 2 bees won't get off of that patty. Let's really try to avoid getting it on the oxalic acid because we prefer the bees not to want to eat this pollen patty and then ingest some of the high concentrated oxalic acid. Wow, that's stickier than I thought it was going to be. That's going to be a mess. Even though I had a little bit on my gloves. Oh well. Man, my smoker's going to be a wreck now, Laurel. All right, well, here's our last one. All right. I am going to take these off because I don't want to get my smoker all messy. That's around a pound. Eyeball it. I want to smoke up underneath this. Make sure there's not a lot of bees underneath there. How are we looking, Laurel? You can say you're good, you know. 10-4 good, buddy. And so there we are right there. I will put a gallon of feed on here at least to get them stimulated and going. It's amazing how fast they can burn through that, especially if there's no fall flow. Bees burn through so much food. It takes about a pound of honey and a pound of pollen or pollen patty to make about a pound of bees. So that's a lot of resources right there. Now, I am going to quickly walk over this way, Laurel, look at this hive, and I'm going to go grab some more gloves. Laurel paused it, so that was really fast. We are going to get into this little hive, and I haven't fed either one of these in like 2 weeks. Here we are. Look how dark these bees are. My favorite color of bees. You can have a lot of good bees though. Yeah. I just kind of like the black and gray and a little bit of yellow. But this hive isn't that big. Small hive beetles, yeah, and they're feeding on that stuff. Oh, maybe we need to add more. That might be the problem. But I am seeing those traps knock the populations down. And in some cases where they're really infested, actually a lot of them are dead in the traps. But I think most of them die outside of the trap. So this, look how meager that pollen is. At least it's something. That's not going to raise a lot of brood. But we could use a little bit more food here. Same thing, basically. And that's just a frame of honey. Yeah, it's a frame of honey. And so we have a good looking frame of brood here. See how it's got a nice even pattern of capping. It looks healthy. And the bees, to me, look very healthy. Their bodies are shiny. I know that might sound silly, but that makes a difference. So the bees look good, but they need more brood. We really need to get it going so we can have a bigger winter cluster. Right now, if this goes into winter, it's going to be like a 3-frame cluster after old bee die-off. That's not ideal. We really want at least a good 5 to 6 frame cluster on this, so this has got a lot of work cut out for it, but it's hard. I mean, if there was a pollen flow, it'd be a cinch, but this is just meager stuff. Look at that queen towards the top, or the bottom bar I should say, and she is quite dark and doing her very best. And yeah, that's kind of what I thought. We're just looking at honey over here. Yeah, just a tiny, look at that little bit of pollen. This is why these bees aren't growing fast. So for anyone who's wondering why aren't my bees growing as fast as they should be, it very likely is a lack of pollen. And we need rain. We haven't had a decent rain in a month. And there's none in the forecast. So we have 2 frames of bees right here. Ideally, I'd have 4 frames of brood going into winter because we need a lot of nurse bees. We are going to apply 2 of these Varroa sand strips. And now I can kind of watch out for that queen a little bit. You know, this is probably about right as 2 of these. They're probably supposed to be a frame apart or something like that, but this is where the brood's at. That's where this is going to be most effective, and that's where I'm going to stick it at. We've got to get them some pollen, Patty, and hope that helps, but come on, pollen flow. That's all I've got to say. I'm going to probably add just a little bit more than that and call it good, because a small colony like this can only take but so much of this at a time and protect it from the beetles. You got to watch that music, especially Strawberry Fields Forever or whatever that is. All right. This video's obviously gotten too long if I'm starting to make fun of the Beatles music. We're going to put this over in here. And we are definitely going to turn the 3/4 inch side up to give us plenty of surface area, added fiber, so they can dominate the area around that patty. And there we go. We're going to give this one a quart of feed. They have a pretty good bit. We just got to stimulate them a little bit, really thin stuff. So that's where we're at right now. Summers in Tennessee and my area are tough. That's why you can't compare yourself to other people, because it's totally different. It's totally different in other locations. I know people that make fall honey. I don't know what that's like. I've never made a fall honey crop before. So just we try to help where we can with our videos, but you have to take them with a grain of salt. But the one thing that works universally is TLC, and the better your bees are treated, the better they do, whether it's nature treating them good or you treating them good. Treat your bees good. Thanks for going through this long video with us, and we'll see you in the next one.